All right, guys, welcome to February 22nd's pre-recorded Zoom. So pretty much immediately following what we had covered on Friday was, right, although I'm pretty sure we acknowledged the internal bullish structural range. I do remember that we had, I believe it was an M15. Yeah, M15 POI that we had referenced, and as you can see, just immediately going off of that, you could see the valid area of interest based on liquidity being taken. That's an SC rule, and as you can see, the mitigation currently, right, gave you that bearish reaction, and that gave you pretty much Monday's or yesterday's bearish move. But as of now, this morning's bearish move, but as of now, it's looking very, very uncertain, especially with how we reacted today, because we know we know that we still want the bearish bias as a whole, because that would fit the failed flag narrative, but internally we know that it also has to fit, or else, it won't work out. So I know we had covered the failed reaction here, and that's pretty much what gave us, that push into the upside, which gave us a bullish narrative. But as of now, right, when I'm trying to analyze where we will go, right, the reaction from the M15 POI is very, very important. So I really wanted to see just how we would react today, right? And that was, I believe, was around here. So this morning, right, I know a couple of us had pointed out, I believe it was this reference point here, and internally we had also referenced here, which makes sense from an order flow perspective. And the only reason why this bearish continuation seemed very, very appealing was just because of the M15 reaction, right? And as you can see, technically internally we are bearish, but based on today's reaction, today's price action, right, I'm now looking not only at this reaction, but I'm also trying to see the management of that reaction. And as you can see, as of now, we are pretty much completing internal liquidity grab, and it looks like we want to start coming up higher, and that's a bit concerning from H2 POV. You can see the wicks starting to give you rejection. You can see the inefficiency fill currently bouncing off of, you can see price currently bouncing off of the inefficiency fill, right? So although we have gotten the reaction from our original POI, the follow through did not clear a previous low. And it looks like now that if we were to break, obviously this POI, that's order flow disruption, and that pretty much dictates, right? That dictates a bullish bias, at least internally for the medium term. For the overall term, I still want to say that we are bearish, because for all that we know, we can have the order flow disruption, but then you can have a bearish transition, which would be in alignment with the overall potential bias of continuation to the downside. But as of now, it's looking a bit unclear, a bit messy, right? I don't like seeing these ranges here, so I do want to see how we will react internally inside this range, so I can actually get an actual bias. But yeah, as of now, it does look like this will probably be taken out, and the only reason why I'm not too confident in potentially this POI is because there's unwillingness after that preliminary structure break there, and that would more so favor, right, the liquidity grab into, right, the POI, and all we're doing is into a discount continuation to the upside. So yeah, this POI could it could give us, you know, a type of reaction to the downside, but it's not too certain because the previous move did not create a new lower low. So it's just hard for me to justify that continuation downward. And I mean, if we are to continue higher, I mean, we could literally see a bearish transition to then, you know, obviously the continuation to the downside. But once we break this, internally we are bullish, so we can only follow that medium-term bias. And we can't really fight against it without those proper transitions. Pretty much moving over to AU. This one I was looking at this morning, but I just didn't see anything clear. In terms of direction, you guys know that we're still bearish, but internally you could see that we are ranging up as well. Very, very choppy. So based on today's session, right, I know that we are bullish based on the taking out of a previous structure point, right? You could obviously see the inefficiency fill. Bullish order flow is intact, bullish structure is intact. So up until today, 7 a.m. right here, right, I believe, yeah, price was right around here. So I didn't want to force a sell because I know that from the internal perspective, we've already seen, right, a potential reaction to the downside that already failed. So technically we are bullish internally at the moment, and that's pretty much the main continuation that we got today, right? And as you can see, so as of now, honestly, it really looks like we're going to continue higher. It really does look like we might start even pursuing, right, these major points up here, right, which that is about 30 pips away. But once that breaks, right, that's going to be, we're probably going to start coming up for previous moves up here. And from the, and if that is taken out, obviously from the daily, that is now, I mean, from a major intraday, that is now, right, technically bullish. But if we are to take the swing high here, then this is now a full-on liquidity grab, and we could start anticipating probably higher pricing, but which would be in alignment with the bearish bias here. But that, you know, we need those transitions to occur. All right, and now with EU, this one was an interesting one today. So today, right, when I was looking at this from the intraday perspective, right, main thing I see is, right, the bearish liquidity grab giving me bearish narrative, and we are already in, right, a premium within, you know, that previous structural range. And my original idea, right, although I want to say that I was bearish on DXY as a whole, right, I don't want to pretty much trade what I want to see. I want to trade what I see. And basically what I saw here, right, was H4 POI based on liquidity grab, right? So internally I was attempting, right, to take a trade based on M5 inefficiency, excuse me. So I was trying to take based on M5 inefficiency because once we start to zoom in, right, obviously internal structure has to be bullish. So we know that we are internally bullish, low high, retracement, right? This is now considered unwillingness because we took liquidity, then we took preliminary liquidity, or preliminary structure, I'm sorry, right? And we even then led to take out or come challenge, right, a previous low. So this to me is showing a sign of unwillingness, right? And unfortunately, I would have wanted the scenario to be hit here, but inevitably it didn't. It didn't hit until over here, right? So now that we had gotten the initial reaction, right, that would obviously be considered aggressive because we had a move occur beforehand. So now we're catching pretty much the bullish move to the upside. So it's technically picking a high internally, but when risk is managed, there's no reason to fear it. So the move that made sense here from a conservative standpoint now was based on M3. And this was pretty much what I was showing you guys right in the morning. So M3 wick went into a M5 POI, caused internal liquidity grab, right? And so this was the conservative entry. So I'd taken both, and obviously once we had taken out preliminary structure, they're both at break even. But unfortunately, right, once we got this, or actually let me just show you guys on here. I know I brought it up. So pretty much, I believe this is the before. Yeah, this is the before. This is the during, right? The M15 POI that we just referenced, and the breaking point that I pointed out, right, was here. This is the breaking point. If this broke, I knew that the trade was probably going to be unsuccessful, and that was because from an M5 perspective, right, you do see a very clear inefficiency fill. So when the inefficiency fill reacts and right, it takes out, right, the breaking point to me here, this would be a preliminary range, right, that is taken out. So once that is taken out, this is to me a solidified low based on low high retracement, and that would probably be the continuation. So that's pretty much what made me, you know, just exit the positions. But it was worth the risk because we are deriving from an M5, I mean from an H4 POI, and we are trying to catch an internal transition, right, to catch that big move to the downside. But obviously you can't always be successful. So very, very justified in my eyes. But after that, it's just, honestly, this is just nothing that I wanted to touch, because for one, right, you could say we solidified the high, but we did not then break a previous high. That then came back down to challenge the previous low. So we don't make a new high, we don't make a new low. That's technically no man's land. So now I don't necessarily want to participate in anything within this, right? That's why you see POIs begin to fail, right? Reaction, and it fails because there is uncertainty via the no man's land. So as of now, all right, where this reacted from, in my opinion, was just a bit because you can see, so this was an M1 inefficiency fill, and that led to the move to the downside. So technically that is order flow disruption, technically that is a bearish liquidity grab, and technically that does influence a bearish bias. But you know, I don't necessarily want to pursue that now. It's a bit late, and it's going to be interesting to see how we close out from an H4, just because, yeah, I was actually wanting to take it based on that, and if the order flow would have been a bit cleaner, especially here, right, then I would have, you know, had a very, very good trade, because this would have been, if I'm just taking it based on a sell right here, 4 pips, right? Initial target is already 30 pips. Next target, 60 pips, right? So that already would have probably been a very, very good trade. So it is what it is. You just move on, and just, honestly, I'm not even too worried about it. But yeah, as of now, yeah, I would say we are technically just very, very uncertain, because as you can see, we did get the structural disruption via obviously the scenario that I talked about, but then we had the bullish move, and then now we're having a very, very messy bearish move. And keep in mind, our structure is still bullish, so a bit uncertain, and this is definitely not an area I want to trade at all. But yeah, with that being said, right, I am going to probably monitor tomorrow. As of today, I don't really have much of a bias, right, but I do want to see how, right, a couple of more reactions will occur, so I can then actually develop a bias. But yeah, with that being said, we'll follow up on Friday, and yeah, I'll see you guys.